Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Marc at Sound Theory Studio. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'm sorry there hasn't been any new videos lately, but the holidays and everything, and we'll be getting back on track here very shortly. And Sticks and Strings has some really cool stuff for us to review, and I've got some personal stuff I haven't reviewed yet. And Sean's going to be coming over with some more stuff, so much more on the way. No worries about that. And real quick, thanks so much to everyone for subscribing. There's been a lot of new subscribers the last few weeks, lots of new views, lots of new comments. Just really appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for that. It really means a lot. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Always new videos coming. So what I'm doing tonight that I thought you'd like is I'm retubing my EVH 5153 combo amp. It's a 212 combo amp, and I love that amp. It is my main metal amp. And I think it's just a vicious sound. If you're into metal, it is just a vicious sounding, so much gain in that amp that even at, you set the gain at 4 and it just sounds monstrous. It's just a really great amp if you're into that kind of music. So in retubing it, I was thinking purely metal. Okay, I've got other amps in the studio that I really like for jazz and things like that. This amp is just kicking butt. That's what this amp's for. So with that said, I did a lot of research on the internet, and I came down, after doing a lot of research and a lot of studying, to 3 different tubes I wanted to try for it. And it's really fun to get to experiment with tubes. If you haven't done that, highly recommend it. More on that later. I have some advice for you when it comes to that. But what I came down to was 3 sets of 12 AX7s. One is the Tung Sol, that guy right there, Mesa Boogie tubes, and finally JJ tubes, the long plate high gain versions. These are all 12 AX7s. They're all preamp tubes. I wasn't replacing power amp tubes, at least not at the moment. And the results were interesting. So let's go ahead and listen to some recordings I did. This is just a very short, like 13-second something metal recording I did. Nothing fancy. I just wanted to hear a recording difference for these tubes, and it was interesting what happened. So let's take a listen to those, and we'll be right back to talk about it. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, cool. So I'm sure you heard some differences there for sure. It's pretty amazing how much difference you get out of tubes. Those were recorded with a SM57, and the settings were the same exactly on all three, other than one difference, and I'll get into that in a second. The JJ tubes, maybe one thing I should say real quick is that tubes sound different in different amps. So you might put tubes in one amp and be like, that sounds awful. But put those same tubes in another amp and it might complement it really well and sound amazing. So let me just start by saying all three of these brands I think are really high quality, nice tubes, no doubt about that. So yeah, no cheap tubes here. These are all good stuff. I could probably recommend all three. But I will say, though, that the JJ tubes in this amp I did not like. The reason why is because they were really mid-heavy. And I don't have any problem with mids, but whoa, just way too much. The boost in the mid EQ was just so high that when I tested those and did the recording, I had to turn the mids to 0, and that's what you heard. And even at 0, they might sound slightly scooped, but they still sound kind of balanced to me. That's how mid-heavy they are. If you turn the mid knob up at all, it just starts to sound really woofy, boomy, mid-heavy, and it was just too much. I didn't like it at all. So they do not complement that amp at all. I have no doubt in other amps they probably sound great, though. But in this amp, didn't like. So JJ's not this time. One thing interesting about those JJ tubes is that the stock tubes in the 5150, from what I read, are JJ tubes. And the reason I'm not sure is because they're completely unlabeled. I'm not sure why. But so it's really hard for me to know what they were. But from the research I did and from Fender's website, it looks like they are JJ tubes, come stock with that amp. And I love the stock tone. It was nice. So it's not that I dislike JJ tubes all the way around, but the ones I bought are different. The ones I bought were the long plate high gain version. So perhaps those, apparently they just don't sound the same as the regular 12AX7s that JJ makes, because these I didn't like very much. I thought the stock tubes were way better. So anyway, just on a side note, even amongst brands, inside the brands, you're going to have a few to choose from that can sound pretty different. So the Tung Sol tubes were interesting. The Tung Sol tubes I read online were very high gain. They distort easily. They distort a lot. They just give you a ton of gain, and they're really nice modern metal sounding tubes, which is one of the reasons I tried them. And I agree with that assessment 100%. They really are high gain. They distort easily. They distort early and often. And they're really, really thick gain you can get out of these. That part I liked. I liked the tone. I thought they sounded really mean, especially here in the room. And I think you can probably hear that in the recording as well. All around, I really like them. I think the only thing I didn't like was they were very loud and noisy, I should say. When you're not playing, and the guitar is just idle, you hear a lot of hum, and I didn't care for that. But of course, that's kind of to be expected out of really high gain tubes, I suppose. But that was the one downfall. They are noisy. The Mesa Boogie tubes were just all around excellent, I think. They just sounded quiet. They were very quiet. They had almost as much gain as the Tung Sol tubes. Very articulate, very tight, very nice. So I'm kind of down now between the Tung Sol and the Mesa Boogie tubes. I'm still thinking about it. I just tried this tonight. I want to give those tubes at least a week or so of testing before I really make up my mind. But the Mesas, I'm leaning that way right now. They sounded really good, but the Tung Sols were nice and mean too. So anyway, one of these days maybe I'll just do like a really comprehensive tube comparison review. I didn't do any clean jazz, blues, classic rock, any of that. This is just metal. I was just kind of experimenting, having fun with it. So don't think of this as the end-all be-all comprehensive tube video, because it certainly isn't. Just thought I'd share it with you guys. Thought you might enjoy it. So anyway, there you go. Now, if you can experiment with tubes, I have a couple pieces of advice that you might find helpful. If you're not like an expert on tubes, one thing I can tell you is that every tube amp, the first tube in line, it's usually referred to as the V1, is usually the closest tube to the input jack. It colors the signal of the guitar right away before it goes anywhere else, and that tube, more than any of the others, will affect the sound. So what a lot of people do is they'll buy several different tubes, one of each, and then put them in that V1 position, and you can get quite a bit of different tone just from that. And yes, you can mix and match tubes like that, the preamp tubes. Some are matched. You have to kind of look at your amp. I'm sure they're all pretty different, but a lot of people do things like that. There's no problem with it. The other thing I'll tell you that's kind of cool is I saw on Amazon.com, and there may be other places where you can do this too, but I saw on Amazon they had a tube sampler kit, and I can't remember how many tubes it was, but it was like 8 or something. It was 8 different 12AX7 tubes, and there's one of each, so that you could buy the sampler kit, put them in that V1 position, and test them out and see what you think. I thought that was really cool, so I might do that sometime. But anyway, if you want to mess with your tubes, there is a big difference in tone. If you have an amp that you're just kind of about the tone, that, don't expect a huge crazy difference. It's not going to necessarily sound like a totally different amp, but it is going to sound different. It is going to have different characteristics, and it's fun to play with anyway. So it's kind of an expensive hobby, I guess, but that's guitar, right? The whole thing's expensive hobby. But yeah, you can buy some tubes and try them out. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, if you have any questions or anything or any comments, please let me know. Been a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new comments, and a lot of views lately. Really, really appreciate it. This is a new channel, pretty unheard, pretty new. No one's, unknown, basically. So, I mean, if you guys want to share this with friends or recommend it, I'd really appreciate that. And thanks so much for your support, as always. It means a lot, seriously. I really, really appreciate it. And you guys just keep leaving comments. I love talking to you. Leave questions. I'll be happy to answer anything I can. And if you have some opinions about tubes, tell me what your favorites are. I've tried a lot of tubes, but I'm not an expert on them. I'd love to try all kinds of new ones. So tell me what you use, why you like them. I'd love to read about it. And cool, well, we'll talk to you soon. More videos on the way. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. You'll get reminded about new videos as they come out. We're going to be reviewing all kinds of amps and guitars. Sticks and Strings Music has some more stuff for us. My friend Sean's going to be coming over again soon and doing some reviews with me. So there you go. All right, talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks again, and happy holidays. See you later.